Ladies and gentlemen, it is the 22nd of January, 2025. It's the Edge of Liberty show right here on the SHR Media Network. Wow, chat's already open. Thank you very much. Good evening. Nice black fingernails. There's nothing wrong with my fingernails. Chat's starting off raunchy already. Jeez, gosh. Got a lot to talk about. First, it just continues for LA. This is from Photo Girl on YouTube. And it's just rough for the people down there right now. The red flag warnings continue overnight tonight. There is another active fire. This one's up over 10,000 acres. It started at, 3 o'clock this afternoon, local time. And it just exploded. I'm going to go over to Watch Duty really quick just to kind of give you the updates. Oh, on my intro, it had black fingernails. I had no idea. This is the Hughes fire. It's right near, it's essentially at the Castaic Reservoir. If you travel the Grapevine going southbound, this is on your left. Going northbound, it's on your right. It's right up against I-5. They shut down I-5 today. It's still shut down. Homes are threatened. And evacuations are all over the place. So if you live down that area, check your evacuations. It's rough. And yeah, BZ, I'm not forgetting about the people of North Carolina either. That's another tragedy that needs to be dealt with. This also is threatening the lives of thousands. That's the only reason why I'm still talking about it like I am. I do want to say, though, so I started off with some bad news, but I want to start off with some great news, or follow up with some great news. Let's turn it around as quickly as we can. Don't you just love to see it? This from the New York Post. CNN plans to lay off hundreds of employees, cuts cost. NBC plots firing. To which I have to say, look, it's getting me. And here's the reason why I laugh. You wonder why they're so opposed to social media being the new news. You wonder why they wanted social media to be throttled. You wonder why. And Jersey Joe, I'm going to get to the snow. Don't worry. I have a bunch of clips down in Florida for you poor people suffering through it. You wonder why they were so opposed to X having free speech, to other platforms having free speech. This is why. This is why they were telling you that they only had access to things that we don't, and that they only knew things that we don't, and that they are so much smarter than you, the average person, that you need them to know what the news is, because you can't trust your lying eyes. You cannot trust your lying eyes. As a matter of fact, your lying eyes are what your biggest problem is. Trust your ears. Trust what they were telling you. That's what they said for these years. This is exactly why. It has nothing to do with them wanting to read the news. It has to do with them wanting to keep their jobs. Because as we saw more and more over the last couple of years, they were proven liars. They were proven Democratic mouthpieces, governmental mouthpieces. Everything they said had a slant, had a jade to it. They were deciding who winners and losers were. And as we know, not the 2024 election, but the 2020 election, they heavily influenced the outcome of the election the way that they wanted to, the way that the DNC told them to, the way that the Democrats needed them to. And I'll tell you right now, that was their biggest fall. We've been saying for years, early Sackheads days, before that, the media has been sprinting, legacy media, I should say, has been sprinting towards the cliff. Remember, on the Trayvon Martin case, NBC News edited the 911 call originally so it sounded worse to meet a narrative. And then they started, it wasn't even it wasn't even subtle. Wasn't even subtle. The lies that they've told through the years, the exaggerations, things that you could see with your own eyes that they told you was not the case. That's not the case. And now you know why. As BZ used to call it, fear porn. He probably still calls it fear porn. I just haven't heard him use that phrase for a long time. That's what they sold. To keep you afraid, to keep you tuned into them, so you didn't go outside, and if you did go outside, you looked at everything with the lens that they told you to look through. It's what they did in schools when all the hippies from the 60s and 70s became professors and department heads and principals and eventually running school districts. This is this has been going on for a long time. This is why they stopped teaching true journalism. And they did. You listen to some of the things that journalists or people that went to journalism school tell you that they focus on had nothing to do with reporting the news. Reporting the news is relatively easy when you're honest. Hell, let's be I mean, be frank. Even if you don't have the world's best writing skills, you can now put your thoughts on paper intelligently with computers and, in some cases, AI. It's still your thoughts, it's still your beliefs, it's still what you saw. You just have a writing assistant there, which is like having an editor at all these newspapers or an editing department. You think every single writer out there who you read is this fantastic writing genius? No, they tell a good story. They put it down and then somebody cleans it up and makes it legible. Not all, I'm sure some of them are brilliant. I'm not saying they're not intelligent, but they have a stance. They have a slant. A lot of them did. It's why newspapers were dying. It had, it's why they had to go to the internet. And newspapers are dying even still. Yeah, they're on websites now, but if they just if they just did what they should have done, if they just stayed neutral and reported the news, I think they still would have done just fine. Yeah, you're gonna have op-eds, that's fine. Like I said before, I'm not a news journalist, I'm a commentator. I have my opinions. This show is my opinions, but I say it. I say it. There's even a warning at the little beginning of the show. The majority of shows on Fox News are opinion shows. There's very little news unless something's in the moment. And they're not the only ones. CNN, MSNBC, it's all the same thing. It's all opinion shows. That's what the news cycle has become. They don't tell you what it is anymore or what it reportedly was. They tell you they want you to think something is. This remote control, if they had some reason to hate this remote control, they would run a story telling you how it would explode at random or some ridiculous thing. That's what they were doing. Once they decided somebody was the bad guy or they needed to take somebody down a few notches, then that's what they did. They made it their mission. We know about the mass emails that would go out through all the radio stations. We know on TV stations as well. We know how they would get talking points on what to say on certain subjects. How did you know that? Because they would all be using the same buzzword over and over and over again. It did not matter. It did not matter what the truth was. What mattered was, as I've said a million times, who was going to be the selected state run media. That's what it became. And when you see things like this out of context, what does the media tell you? A Nazi salute. But it wasn't. Anyone who watched that speech knew it wasn't. It wasn't a Nazi salute. He said very clearly prior that he was giving his heart to them. Never mind all the still shots that we have of Democrats doing the same thing at one time or another. I don't think that they're giving the Nazi salute. Comically, I might say something to a friend on the slide, but do I really think that AOC was out there when she was giving her speech in New York, earlier this year in the summertime? Just the same speech where she was jumping around on stage? Do I really think that she was giving out the Nazi salute? No. I don't need to make stuff up because I have plenty of other ways to prove that AOC is a babbling idiot. But when they don't have anything to really go after, when they don't have the hit piece that they want, they take something like that and they run with it. And who is that designed for? Not for the person that knows better. It's not that knows that Elon Musk was wearing a tag of one of the Jewish hostages, the Israeli hostages, the entire time, and he still wore it. He's spoken about it several times. They ignore all that, but they know who this is for. You know this is for. It's not for me. It's not for you. They've already written you off. It's for people like this.
Y'all can't sound alarms after the fact. It's too late. It's too late to sound the alarms. You didn't listen. So, nobody can hear those alarms. It's falling on deaf ears, just like our pleas for you guys to understand what was going to happen when that man, if and when that man got into office again. Y'all had your hearing ears off. And now you are sounding alarms that the rest of us already heard. We heard the alarms. We heard them loud and clear. And we voted per those loud, jarring alarms that were right there in your face. It's too late to sound the alarms.
And by the way, her name, and she said FAFO bitches at the end. Her name is No Drama Baby Mama G. That is who mainstream media sells the lies to. Because, as you see right there, they've convinced her. They've convinced her that everything is evil, everything is doom and gloom, everything's horrible, we're not going to survive, yada, yada, yada. That's why the media has done what they've done for years. And now you have some of the biggest so-called news agencies in the country doing layoffs because their bullshit has finally come to surface over the last 2 years especially. The worst thing that could have happened to them is you and I being able to speak, you and I having conversations. Outlets like High Plains Pundit, my friend Dan's in the chat room, being able to share the truth, share actual reporting. And yes, sometimes opinion. But guess what? We all of us, tell you when it's opinion. BZ in the chat didn't play the whole thing. I said since 2016, no president will ever be perfect. I didn't vote for Donald Trump because I love and adore him. I voted for Trump because he would do more good than bad. He is congruently aligned. The only perfect presidential candidate is me, and I'm not running. And if you've ever seen BZ, you know that he's not running anywhere. But I agree to a point. You know, we said in his last election, and I talked about his last term, he was the president we needed at that moment. And I believe that's the case now too. Is he the idealistic image in the sense of what we used to think the perfect presidents were? Reagan, Washington, names like that? Perhaps not. But the world has changed immensely. And the woke ideology that has impacted this country beyond what's even discussed needed to be undone. This world government that the progressives and the leftists lead to in giving away our country to other countries, left and right, just throwing money away, giving away our sovereignty through little changes here and there. When you allow an outside country or the United Nations or anyone else to start dictating or trying to dictate or thinking they can dictate what you can do in your country, you've lost your sovereignty. When you open your southern borders and you stop vetting who's coming over, and again, I'm not against immigrants, not against legal ones. Come here, live your best life, make tons of money. I hope your kids are happy. I hope you succeed. But the legal immigrants that do it the right way, pour blood, sweat, and tears to get here and to do it the right way, and they respect it. The ones who flow over that border, they're not coming here to be Americans. They're coming here to absorb what America has, what they can devour. That doesn't mean that everyone who's coming across the border is a bad person. But as we've said before, talking about the border, there's at least 1 million bad people that came over that border. At least. That's just statistically speaking. But the left wants to tell you that it's bad to stop the border. It's bad to close the border, I should say. It's bad to want to know who's coming into this country. It's bad to remove people from this country who shouldn't be here. And you're a horrible person if you suggest that those people shouldn't be here. Here's another great example of how they spin this and how the left plays on emotions over logic. And I mentioned her earlier, but who better to iterate my point than Sandy Cortez?
I want the American people to know with eyes wide open what is inside this bill. Because we stand here just 2 days after President Trump gave unconditional pardons to violent criminals who attacked our nation's capital on January 6th. And these are the people who want you to believe, who want us to believe that they're trying to, quote unquote, keep criminals off the streets. When they are opening the floodgates. I want the American people to know what is in this bill. Because in the guise and in the...
1,500 people were arrested at the Capitol. I believe it was 1,500 some odd numbers. 10 million illegals have come over the border. We know statistically 1 out of 10 people is a criminal. And the difference is many of the people who were arrested on January 6th were not arrested for violent crimes. Some were, most weren't. The vast majority were not. And the whole a police officer died thing on January 6th, where's the homicide charge? Show me the person who was charged with murder. Show me the people who were charged with sedition.
In the wake of tragedy, we are seeing a fundamental erosion of our civil rights. In this bill, if a person is so much as accused of a crime, if someone wants to point a finger and accuse someone of shoplifting, they will be rounded up and put into a private detention camp and sent out for deportation without a day in court.
Only if they're illegal. If they're legal citizens, they won't. That's how it works. And that's how it worked for years. And even Democrats used to be on board with that before they were trying to change the voting makeup of this country. That's the difference. And we know that. We've talked about it before. I will talk about it again. When they do the census, they do not ask if everybody in that home is legal or a citizen. They just count how many people are in the home. And guess what? The voting districts are cut up by population. Does not matter, legal or otherwise. Do I think they should change that? Absolutely. Is that how the current law works? Absolutely not. Oh yeah, no, Joe, you're 100% right. There's more than just a single murder. There's the guy that murdered 2 FBI agents. But they don't talk about that. They don't want to talk about that. Because if you talk about that, it hurts your narrative. And I'll tell you right now, the Democrats are struggling. Anyone who follows me on X, I made a quick comment last night about somebody talking about Doug Emhoff, and the left went absolutely batshit crazy. And of course, they kept trying to turn the conversation to Trump. But the simple fact of the matter is, I was talking about Doug Emhoff. The Post was talking about Doug Emhoff. I brought up that he may have physically assaulted a girlfriend a while back and definitely impregnated an extremely young nanny. And people lost their mind. They were so furious that I would dare point that out. And the problem is they don't know how to be reasonable. So AOC goes on this rant, and it just goes on and on for another couple minutes, and I'm not going to subject you to it. Actually, what I'm going to give you is Tom Homan's response to it.
The country illegally is violating
Legal asylees.
I'm going to be separated. When I was a police officer in New York and I arrested a father for domestic violence, I separated that father
Mr.
from his
Homan,
family.
with all due respect, legal asylees are not charged with any crime.
When you're into the country illegally is violation 8 United States Code 1325.
Seeking asylum is legal.
If you want to seek asylum and go through the port of entry, do it the legal way.
Anyone who comes through is illegal. It's against the law. If you're seeking asylum, we have a process for that. If you're not seeking asylum, you don't deserve to be here. And I know the left is so angry, just like they were when slavery was overturned. They're so angry that the people who could work the fields will be kicked out. You know who else? And I don't agree often, but do you know who else was against illegal immigration? And this is a guy that I've been doing this for a long time. And if you can find anywhere else in any of my shows where I say I agree with this person, you can give me, I'll give you $50. Other than on this specific topic, and that is Cesar Chavez, who said he doesn't agree with illegal immigration. You know why? Because it hurt the union workers. So there you go. I agreed with something Cesar Chavez said. If you don't know who Cesar Chavez is, you can Google it. Other than that, the man was a communist. Nothing much else did I agree with. But you know what? Even communists aren't a fan of open borders. They hated them. Just ask everyone under the Soviet bloc back in the day. Ask China. China, if you get caught illegally, they just throw you in the gulag, essentially. China, you have to ask permission from the government to leave the country. No, it wasn't. Sean brought up a good point. He said, was it Al Gore? It wasn't Al Gore. It was the other guy who ran for president. Gosh, I can't think of his name. I can't think of his name. That came out. BZ's going to throw it out here in a second. He's good with that. I always forget stuff like that. So what has them all in a tizzy? What has people like AOC just losing her mind right now? I mean, look, I know they're all triggered. I know Trump won. I know they're all shitting Twinkies on the left because they don't know what to do with themselves. Well, the first day that Homan was in charge of immigration, ICE arrested 308 illegal migrants, most of whom were violent felons. The rest were just felons. They started right away. And we come back, I'm going to talk about the good work that immigration's done. I'm going to talk about some things that are going on in Texas. And I'm going to talk about a move that Trump made with federal law enforcement, with one agency suspiciously left out. I found that interesting. If you don't know, up until recently, only certain agencies were allowed to do actual immigration enforcement. Even those federal agencies, and these are through executive orders, if they came across an illegal alien with a detainer, they had to hold him just like anyone else and wait for immigration to show up. That's changed. And I'll tell you what changes those were after the break. And then I'll reveal the one agency that wasn't allowed after this change to enforce immigration laws. All that and more right here on the Edge of Liberty, right here on the SHR Media Network. Back in.
Freedom. One nation in all of human history was built on that bedrock. Ours. A republic of the people, by the people, and for the people. Self-government requires freedom, just as freedom requires an individual willingness to self-govern. Freedom has made America exceptional, but it can only last as long as you and I seek the good, as expressed by the laws of nature and nature's God. It can only last if you and I choose to act as people of character. Forging character has been the pursuit of Hillsdale College since 1844.
Ever dream of escaping the daily grind? At Escapist Travel and Tours, we make those dreams your reality. From breathtaking adventures to cultural immersions, we offer escapes tailored just for you. Let us take you to places where every moment feels like a new chapter in your life's adventure. Visit www.escapist.travel or call us today at 1-855-885-81776. Your escape awaits.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out Seven Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with Seven Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com.
Thank you for joining me right here on the Edge of Liberty SHR Media Network. From High Plains Pundit. Check them out, High Plains Pundit. Great newspaper, great online reporting. The individuals arrested included individuals convicted of violent felonies such as murder, rape, sexual assault, and some of the victims of their felonies being children. ICE is getting public safety threats and national security threats, which was the promise made during the campaign. That was in the chat room by my friend Dan Butcher over at High Plains Pundit. If you want to get in the chat, jump in. The best chat that I can tell is on YouTube. It's the one I can interact with the most. It's the one that always comes through. All the other ones sometimes is a little problem getting through the programming, but this one always works. YouTube always comes through. So if you check us out, go to SHR Media on YouTube. You can subscribe. You can like. You can do that anywhere you're watching, really. And you can get into the chat room. Even if you hate me, you can pop up some chat. Want to thank everyone else in the chat room, too. I have Sean in there. Jeremy Hansen just popped in. I know Mike was nice enough to join us. Of course, Jersey Joe, the Reaver of Common Sense, another great friend of the show and has a hell of a show himself. BZ in the chat room also has a great show, great friend of the show, great friend of ours. Rick Robinson popped in and said, hi, I'm sorry, Rick. I didn't see it earlier. And there's more. So you can join the chat. Like I said, come in and yell at me. Or if you're super awesome and you've been around for like ever, you can become a moderator like Jeremy Hansen. But we have to trust you and we have to like you. And that means you have to get BZ's seal of approval, and that's not easy to get. So, going back and talking about the border, Trump, which he can do with his executive actions because he's the head of the executive branch, has allowed previously restricted agencies, ATF, DEA, and there was another one in there too. I can't remember who it was. I can tell you who it wasn't. It wasn't the FBI being allowed to do immigration enforcement. Snubbed the FBI. Is anybody shocked whatsoever? Because even though he's in charge, the FBI has some issues, and we all know it. So that's going to be interesting to see. By the way, if you didn't see, I'm not going to play the rant from Rashida Tlaib, but she was essentially talking about how people were getting deported over doing minimal criminal things, and then said that her mother would have been deported if she stole. And I thought that was a really odd way of saying that your mother was a thief. And maybe that's not what she meant, but I'll tell you right now, that's exactly what she said. Yeah, last night turned into a long show, or 2 nights ago turned into a long show. We've done, I'll tell you, as a network, between the night before the swearing in inauguration, the night of the inauguration, then my show last night, we have been on a marathon, which, by the way, for everybody involved, none of us are marathon runners or even close to it or even watch a marathon. We've been a marathon of broadcasting. So it's been a blast. It's been a lot. I appreciate everyone who's joined in and tuned in. And he's not in chat tonight, but I can't not mention my good friend Big E over on Mission Ready Men on the SHR Media Network as well. And we were joined from Rick Robinson over at KLRN, our good friends over at KLRN Radio. So getting back to this story. Oh, it was the Marshal Service. That was the other agency that is now allowed to enforce immigration, but no FBI. As of right now, we believe that it's going to be a number of 10,000 troops being sent to the southern border to assist in protecting our border. Their primary, oh man, people that stay up late and watch us and I know that they have to get up early. You have no idea how much I appreciate that. But they'll have more roles, more administrative roles. I know they'll stand guard, and I know that they're going to be flying the drones and the helicopters and planes. They're going to be doing a lot, but that frees up those agents who are doing all these administrative roles and babysitting to actually go out and enforce the border. So 10,000. That's a huge number. And that shows you that Trump's serious. The Coast Guard, and I think we talked about this the other night, the Coast Guard will now be doubling efforts and doing a surge into the Gulf of America. Love it. And around Florida and other parts that are known for immigration and drug smuggling. That was announced. The previously approved refugee flights from outside the country have been canceled. This is all on the border. I seriously could do 3 hours on the border tonight. I'm not kidding. The amount of work that's being done on the border is out of control. Out of those 10,000, why isn't Food and Ag? You know what? I could also say, why isn't what's it? The NOAA, they have a law enforcement branch. I'll tell you, folks, and BZ, I think, is being a little bit of a smart ass in chat asking why the Food and Ag cops weren't allowed to do the enforcement. I'll tell you what, folks, if you do not realize how many federal law enforcement entities there are, the IRS has a huge law enforcement agency, Bureau of Land Management, federal park rangers. There's like 40 different branches of federal park rangers. It's amazing. But so far, only the ones I talked about, BZ, announced that they will now be able to perform immigration enforcement. Out of those 10,000, the military transport aircraft, yeah, you are a smart ass, being deployed to the U.S. Transportation Command to assist Homeland Security with deportation flights for illegal aliens from San Diego, California, El Paso, Texas. They will include 2 C-130s and 2 C-17s so far. So now we have the air support starting to come in with some of the immigration assistance. Reading chat. I stop reading chat when I'm by myself. When I have other people on, I can read a lot more and be able to go back and forth, but I focus in so much on chat because you all have such good stuff to say. It's a lot of fun over in chat. Let's see. And by the way, for everyone who doesn't know, Wednesday night, my rule on the show is going to be this. If I have a guest, I'll do 2 hours. If I don't have a guest, I'm going to keep it 1 hour. And part of that is a little bit of self-protection. It's a long day. I start at 4:00 in the morning, and here it is 8:00 at night, and I got a lot of stuff to go do before I go to bed. So more great work being done on the border. And do you remember, I think it was 2 years ago or so, back when the Biden administration was still saying the border was not a crisis, back when they were saying the border was fine, everybody's acting up too much. Everybody's just you're worrying too much. The border, there's nothing going on at the border. It's not a crisis. And they made Texas, who at that point started enforcing their own border because the federal government would not. And they started putting these barriers up to keep illegal immigrants from coming across the river, the Rio Grande. Part of the problem, that's a legitimate problem, is the massive amount of people who were drowning. Why were they trying to cross there? Because they weren't going through the ports of entry. And they were pulling people out regularly, including young children. People would try to cross, not being able to swim, bringing young children with them, and they would drown. So as a deterrent, and they were still able to conduct life-saving rescues with this barrier up. They put this barrier up, and it was working. And then the Biden administration said, no more. You have to take that down. It's illegal. But it wasn't illegal. It was more of an executive order, and they were threatened to sue. But now you see it going back into place. Governor Abbott tweeted this out. They are putting them back in place to deter more people and keep them on the other side of the river. Do you see the difference between leadership and not leadership? When all of a sudden you have the right person in charge, our borders can actually be secure. And it does save lives. It does save lives. And all of this is a message. Look, we talked about with immigration, as soon as Biden and Harris got elected, they weren't even in office yet, and the caravan started, not only from South America, but from overseas. Why? Because they talked about opening the border. It wasn't hard to figure out. It wasn't difficult to figure out. They knew they were going to be soft on the border. They said, we're going to turn every single Trump EO over, undo them. And everyone knew what that meant. Borders open, guys. And they responded. They responded like we said they would respond. I wasn't on the air a couple years ago, but I think I made a couple of appearances on certain people's shows and talked about it. But also conversationally. And now, like I said, over 10 million that we know got over the border illegally, that we know about. It's all estimates. And you have all of these changes. All of them. And it's for a positive change. It's for preserving our nation. And unfortunately, one of the things that people don't talk about is the Trump administration has to go hard to undo all the damage that was done by the Biden administration. Look, if the Biden administration actually dealt with border intelligently, Trump wouldn't have to do everything that he was doing or that he is doing, because it would have been dealt with intelligently. But that wasn't the case. As I talked about earlier, there was a goal, and that goal was plain and simple: to flood this country with illegals, to change how this country votes for the future. And now that's being undone. And speaking of south of the border, Secretary of State Marco Rubio is on his way to Panama, apparently. If he hasn't left yet, he's supposed to be leaving here shortly to talk about the Panama Canal, which Trump wants to bring back under American control. Again, changes being made. The Department of Government Efficiency posted today on X, $784 million in taxpayer dollars for the new U.S. Embassy in the South Sudan, initiated in 2023. This is not a reasonable expenditure. $784 million to build an embassy. And I have a feeling that's not going to get built anymore. So now we're saving money. We're securing our borders. We're saving money. We're going to secure shipping, hopefully, in Panama. Yeah, I agree with Sean. I really think that Rubio looks different. We're going to make changes to better our own nation. And this is just another amount of winning. It's so funny that when you have the right people, the right things happen. Once again, apparently after a call today with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, they're going to push a $600 billion investment with the U.S. So now we actually have money coming in. Do you see what happens when you have a change in leadership? This is a great Van Halen song. And here's a reminder of what happens under poor leadership. This is from Glenn Greenwald. I'll read it, but I want you to see it as well. Ukraine's chief army psychologist was arrested Tuesday on charges of stealing $1 million in foreign war aid. He bought apartment buildings, BMWs, and a $150,000 home. No wonder Dems and McConnell called Rand Paul a Kremlin agent for wanting an audit. Yeah. That was old leadership. That was a problem. And so when the chat, I mentioned Panama, the chat room starts, Jersey Joe brings up Van Halen, great song it is, and Biff, which is BZ, starts his own version of singing Panama. And now I don't know if I want to continue the show. I'm not gonna lie. So we're seeing the controversy between old and new. And by the way, Trump's only been in office for 3 days. And if they do that $600 billion investment and we save 700 some odd billion dollars by not building that embassy in South Sudan, that's over $200 billion that we're in the green. We're in the black rather right there. That's a start, isn't it? My math's wrong. It's way more than that. I apologize. It's over $1 trillion, isn't it? No, it's not. It was $1 million in the. I had a thought, and it didn't work out so well. But $600 billion invested, and then we save almost $1 billion. That's still a good start. $601 billion in the black 3 days in. I'd say we're going in the right direction. And on top of all of that, Trump saved us from global warming. That was New Orleans a couple days ago. And the South was getting slammed with snow. And Florida, as Joe said, also hit with snow. Georgia got hit with snow. This is Baton Rouge at sundown tonight. This is Louisiana. I mean, it's amazing. Look at that. It's gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. How did he turn global warming around? Pensacola Beach, Florida. Ready for this? When was the last time you saw snow at Pensacola Beach, Florida? It's amazing. That's snow up against the ocean. It's absolutely incredible to me. And look, I mean, I grew up on the East Coast, as a lot of us did. And I can't ever tell you the last time it snowed in Florida. In Georgia. I think the northern part of Georgia and the hills got some snow here and there. Not too often. But see Louisiana, and I saw, not for it because I thought I had it. I saw a video out of Louisiana with a guy who built a giant snowman on his pickup truck and was driving around with it. It is, I'll tell you, when you live in a place that it doesn't snow and people react to it that don't normally see snow, they have a good time. And yeah, Jeremy, I understand. I grew up in the snow. I know what snow sick is. I know how you get tired of it. But, it's like going to Vegas in a way, right? If you live there, it's not the same experience. When you're there all the time, it's not, you avoid the strip, yada, yada, yada. But when you don't get to go very often, you go and have fun. It's the same with the snow. New Orleans got 8 inches of snow. 8. That's a lot of snow in a city that deals with snow on a regular basis. Never mind New Orleans. Florida, I saw videos of the highway patrol just doing nothing but pulling people out of ditches. It's crazy, but it's fun. From Wisconsin, it could be from everywhere else. Yeah, like I said, I hear you, but to see snow and ice in places there was before, it's kind of cool. Look at this. This is a legit picture. I'll just give you a second. Turn down the sound. That's an alligator under ice with just his nose peeking out. I remember seeing this once before. A couple of years ago, I saw a video like that. I think it was from like northern North Carolina when they got hit with it. But I think that was, I want to say that was either Florida or Louisiana. So I hope you guys have fun. Be crazy, but not too crazy. Don't get hurt. Milton, Florida got 8 inches. There you go, Joe. Thank you. I don't know I don't know all the numbers, God's sakes. I'm not a weatherman, Joe. No, I think it's great. I'm glad you guys are having fun with it. I've seen so many. I'll tell you, even though I'm happy that Trump won, and I'm happy that Trump's in office right now, and we're going everything in the right directions, the last 4 or 5 months have been exhausting if you follow media news like we do, right? And even, you can party too much, but part of it's just how much we have to consume for our show, or if you go on other people's shows, or to do the social media, to write articles, whatever. You're just consuming all this media. And I love it. Don't get me wrong. That's why I do it. I really do love it. I really do enjoy it. However, every once in a while, you want to break. So for me, to see all of these non-snowy areas, to see all these cities that don't normally get snow, have some snow, have some ice, to watch these videos of them all having a blast, and they're making snowmen, and the kids, especially the kids, to watch the kids who never seen, some of them never seen it, just going nuts and being silly. I just think it's, it's fun. It's enjoyable. Look, it's like a good news thing. And the nice part is it's in the South. It's probably going to be gone in 3 days, right? It'll warm up. The weather pattern will change. It'll go back to the normal weather, but it's fun. You got to enjoy that. More good news. John Bolton no longer has Secret Service protection. And Trump rescinded it. Let's see. There are rumors, and we've talked about this before, and again, these are just rumors, but I want to see chat's response. There are rumors that there's serious consideration by Donald Trump to abolish the federal income tax. I've seen this a few times from a few different places yesterday. This time it was by Dominic Trippi, and he's a political writer and analyst, but he's not the only place I've seen that. I've seen that in other places. We've heard it kicked around before the election. But I will tell you right now, in chat, I want to know your feelings on what you think about Trump getting rid of the federal income tax. I know what I think. I think it'd be incredible. We survived without a federal income tax before. We can do it again. Yes, those costs will go up in some other places, but it becomes more of a consumption tax. It's more your choice on what you're willing to be taxed about versus not be taxed about. But I'll tell you right now, and if Trump passed and got rid of the federal income tax, there's not much he would need to do for the next 3.90 years to not be one of the great. I mean, he literally could just put the pen down right then and there. If he keeps immigration doing what it's doing, Doge cuts a whole bunch of money, and he gets rid of the federal income tax, Mount Rushmore, baby. He'd be going up on Mount Rushmore. There's no doubt about it. Oh, the chat room is just. And I don't know if he can pull it off. I don't know if he would get the votes. I don't know. I mean, I wish he would. I wish it would be a thing. I don't know if there's enough true conservatives to pull it off right now. But it would be absolutely incredible. So to wrap up the first 3 days, what was it, 115, I think, executive orders were signed. DEI is dying on a federal level. The border's getting secured. Deportations have started. Trump, well, there's rumors that he's going to get rid of the income tax. The South was able to enjoy a snowy couple of days. And so far, we're off to a good start. Oh, Lincoln Riley Act was passed. I completely forgot about that. I think that goes to Trump's desk in the next day or so. Are you tired of winning yet? Are you tired of winning? I'm not tired of that. I'm not tired of winning. And this is just the start. Doge is already starting. He ordered federal workers back to work. This is all stuff he said he was going to do, and he's doing it. I think it's just the people that are shocked make me laugh. Like, Trump did a lot of what he said he was going to do last time. Maybe not everything, but he tried pretty hard. You knew who he was. You knew what he wanted to do. And this time, he's a lame duck president, technically. He's not going to run again. So why wouldn't he pull out all the stops? That's what people voted for. That's what they wanted. That's why he won the popular vote. That's why he won the Electoral College. That's why he's more popular with people of color in this country than any conservative has been. Because jobs are going to come back, and they know that. That's why he's more popular with everybody. It's going to be safer. Jobs are coming back. He's doing what he said he was going to do. And I'll tell you something, for all of you future candidates, for all of you future presidential candidates or politicians in general, this is when you have a president that actually does what he says he's going to do and follows through, you better keep up the pace, because people, they're not going to turn back, and they're not going to accept it well. Make sure you check out, of course, 9 o'clock Pacific, noon on the East Coast. Tomorrow morning, we have Mission Ready Men. Tomorrow night, right here on SHR Media, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 the East Coast. I'm just kidding. I didn't freeze. You have the BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. Friday night, 6 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast. 9 on the East Coast. I haven't even been drinking. Maybe that's the problem. You're the Reaver of Common Sense. All those great shows right here on the SHR Media Network. Make sure you check them out. Also, check out our good friends over at KLRN Radio. That's going to be it for me. I'll be back Monday, 9 p.m. How do you Let me try that again. I'll be back Monday, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast. Telling you, I'm tired, man. It's been a long couple of days. Ready for a long siesta. Have a great week. Have a great weekend. I'll see you on Monday. Thank you to everybody who joined me in chat. As always, a pleasure. Please like and subscribe. Have a good week and take care.